Uh-oh.
That WBC belt is the belt that most fighters want. So you've got that one exactly. So you got a message for them? Come and get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing I'll have Tiara Brown after this weekend. So I'd love to put that one to bed. She's had my name in her mouth for a long time. Another undefeated fighter. Another person who's apparently got what it takes to beat me. So we'll see. Get that one out the way, and then I want to start collecting the other belts. Obviously, there's another champion in the division now, the IBF World Champion, Nina Menk from Germany. And so I'll obviously be eyeing off that because I feel like that's a fight that's going to be easier to be made than the Serrano fight. I know Serrano doesn't want to fight me. I've said it for a long time. I think even her words and her actions have made that quite clear. But I'm ready when she is.
I don't want to like Skye Nicholson. I try not to.
But her confidence is admirable.
The swagger.
Would seem that Skye Nicholson already has her next 2 fights lined up, and I believe that those are winnable fights for the reigning WBC champion, so long as Skye keeps my Amanda's name out of her mouth.
Don't play games with me.
Don't try to drag Amanda's name in the mud after everything she's done. Don't try to pretend that she's avoiding you by fighting a better fighter than you at a higher weight for more money. Don't you do it.
Stop it right now.
You got your next 2 fights lined up, and you need to focus on that. I have to admit, I don't want to like Skye Nicholson, but I'm starting to.
It's only the Amanda Serrano stuff that chaps my ass.
That's what bothers me. But that aside, she's very good at what she does. I have to admit that, even though I'm not a fan of pure boxers and that economic, mobile-based style, she's very good with it.
She beat Raven.
And made it look easy. I thought that fight would be a lot harder for Skye Nicholson, and it wasn't.
Damn it.
I don't like being wrong, but Skye Nicholson proved me wrong. And I wouldn't be much of an analyst if I didn't acknowledge that she's very good. She's very good at what she does, even if I don't find it entertaining.
She's hot.
So what about the Tiara Brown fight? Does Tiara Brown stand a better chance of giving Skye Nicholson a fight than Raven Chapman did? Because I thought Raven was going to be a handful for her, and she wasn't. She beat Raven the same way she beats everybody else.
Before she beat Raven, I already thought that Skye would be able to beat Tiara.
The reason for it, Tiara Brown is a good fighter. She's very good. But she's also in her mid-30s and noticeably slower than Skye Nicholson. She's strong.
Skye's got speed. Tiara's got power.
Tiara's got more time in. More time in the paid ranks. She's 17-0, where Skye Nicholson is 12-0. But Tiara, she has been around a lot longer than Skye, that you figure she should actually be further along. Now, maybe it's because Tiara never had a major promotional outfit behind her the same way that Skye did.
Skye does.
Tiara's been a professional boxer for something like 8 years. 8. To Skye Nicholson, who's only been a pro boxer for a little over 2 going on 3 years.
And look at how far along Skye is compared to Tiara.
Having a major promotional outfit behind you, boxing on a big platform, it has a lot to do with that. The promotional push you can get. Skye has it.
That's not to say she hasn't earned her way, because she has.
Skye fought in the WBC eliminators to get her where she is now.
Yeah, because Matchroom put up the money.
So what if they did? It's not written anywhere on any piece of parchment that every fighter is entitled to be promoted by a major outfit like a Matchroom or a Top Rank. That's not written anywhere. That's just the luck of the draw. Matchroom paid to make those fights happen, but Skye held up her end of the bargain. She won those fights, so now she's champion.
Tiara's a mandatory.
And she didn't forget about Tiara. She had her in mind after the Chapman fight, it looks like she's next. And I believe that Skye can do to Tiara what she just did to Raven. Stick and move, stay on the outside.
Stay on your toes.
Use the jab, move, and punch. She can do that to Tiara the same way she did it to Raven.
She can do it. I think beating unbeaten Tiara Brown would garner Skye a lot of respect in the American boxing scene.
The Americans are funny. They may not be supporting a homegrown American fighter until that American fighter has got to fight some foreigner. Then all of a sudden, they start to rally around them. That is the case with Tiara, who's been around for a very long time, though you didn't really see people start talking about her and supporting her until this Skye Nicholson stuff became a thing.
Tribalism.
If Skye can show up the American fighter to the Americans that all of a sudden started caring about Tiara, that'll be a nice feather in Skye Nicholson's cap.
Yes.
It's a genuine opportunity for Skye Nicholson to endear herself to the American fans by beating the American fighter.
I actually think she can do it. I don't want to like Skye.
Gets on my goddamn nerves talking all that shit about Amanda, but aside from the Amanda Serrano stuff, she is a formidable fighter.
Looks like this might be Skye's first fight in the coming year. The Tiara Brown fight. Tiara said she wants it. She's going to get it.
Why is he being held to a certain standard that others aren't being held to? In MMA, that would mean, if we are going to play by those rules, that would mean the likes of, Anderson Silva, John Jones. That would mean Canelo. Wow. That would mean so many guys would have never been able to fight so many fights after infractions.
Ariel raises a valid question. This has been going on for something like 2 years or going on 2 years now, this thing between Conor and the BBBofC, but perhaps that's the difference. The presiding commission. Conor's situation took place in the UK, not the United States. The United States has a revolving door policy when it comes to fighters that test positive for banned substances. The UK does not.
The BBBOC has teeth, and they're going to bite you if you give them a reason.
So if you're noticing a difference between Conor's situation and someone else's, that's why.
Whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, an infraction is an infraction. And this guy, we are dragging this on. I've talked to the top commissioners in America, who I think are the smartest people when it comes to sanctioning fights, and fighters who have said, yes, of course he can fight here.
And he has 2 times already. There was a lot of confusion as to whether or not Conor Benn was suspended at the time that he had those 2 fights in America. He wasn't.
So the American commissions had nothing to uphold.
What it was the National Anti-Doping Panel lifted the suspension the BBBOC put on him so he was free to fight. Though afterwards, the BBBOC appealed that decision and the appeal was granted.
And thus, where Conor wasn't suspended before, he is suspended now.
No problem. Bring him here. And yet in Britain, I feel like there's some, I don't know, there's an axe to grind. There's some history there. I don't know if it's his father. I don't know. What is it? Why is he being held to this different standard? And oh, by the way, if it happens in Riyadh, doesn't the British Boxing Board of Control sanction those fights? How could they do that? How will they allow it and not allow it in the UK? I don't understand this. And I know this is a question perhaps for an Eddie Hearn, but it is very confusing on this side of the table.
Yeah, well, Eddie Hearn and I think even Conor Benn have said that we will get some sort of ruling on this like in coming days, but they've been saying that for a few weeks.
It's my understanding that the suspension they put on Conor is going to be lifted next year. Next year, they want to make that long-awaited Chris Eubank Jr. fight. They haven't given up on that.
Still want to do it.
But next year, that's when this long and drug-out situation is said to come to an end.
Yeah.
So I think there must be a conversation that's happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and surely it's just a case of, okay, guys, look, this has been 2 years. Let's just all move on from it and slap me on the wrist and I move on. Right? I mean, surely that's the case. As to why he's still being vilified.
There's more than one contributing factor to why Conor Benn has been attacked more so than some other fighters that found themselves in this same situation. One that wasn't mentioned on this show is that he's a matchroom fighter. And there are a lot of people who don't like Eddie, don't like matchroom fighters. So at the first chance to take shots at one of them, they will. And they have. That is just one contributing factor. There are others.
I think maybe it's just a case of everyone else that seems to have tested positive for something almost runs and hides for 6 months and you don't hear from them. Conor Benn has fought back and fought back and fought back, and he's gone on social media and he's attacked people.
It's another contributing factor. Conor Benn didn't go hide under a rock when all of this started. He was adamant that he was innocent. And maybe he is.
But it didn't help his situation, the way that he handled it.
And I remember that he went on the Piers Morgan show to try to address all of this publicly, and it didn't have the desired effect. It didn't make people think he was innocent. Especially not when you truck off to America afterwards because you're not at liberty to box. In the United Kingdom, you go to the United States because of how innocent you are.
Those are the optics.
And he's probably dealt with it the wrong way. But when you still speak to Conor Benn, I mean, Conor Benn is still adamant he did nothing wrong. And that's his firm stance since day dot. And I think some people almost want him to say, okay, look, I messed up. Can I swear on this channel? Can I
Sure,
swear?
go crazy.
Oh, lovely. I f***ed up.
Yeah.
And people want him to do that.
Apologies for the
And
language.
he's not
Put
doing
that up there. Put the apology.
And he hasn't done that.
In fairness to Aday's observation, he might be right. That might be what people want him to do, though in fairness, no one has. I've never seen a fighter who tested positive for a banned substance just come out and say, you got me. You caught me red-handed. I was looking for a competitive edge, and I used some stuff I wasn't supposed to be using. To my knowledge, that has never happened.
The closest I've ever seen a fighter come to doing that was Alexander Povetkin when he tested positive for meldonium, but his explanation was he was only using it while it was legal.
Before it was banned by WADA.
So, look, it's a strange one. I think it's been done now. Like, let's all move on from it. I know some people said, oh, but he's had a couple of fights. He's not really had a ban or anything. Well,
come
yeah,
on.
he's had 2 fights in America, but I think we should all move on.
I'll tell you guys this. Ryan Garcia, I've been hearing some things, okay? I've been hearing some things, some people that are really close to him, man, and saying that, Tim, this has been some funny business going on. And I trust these people. These people, the sources that I talked to, I trust them. They said, man, I'm just telling you, it was some funny business. And I'm going to tell you that Ryan Garcia, he didn't even really train. He didn't. He was overweight, Tim. He was like 17 to 20 pounds almost over the weight that Monday before the fight. 17 to 20 pounds overweight. He didn't want to make the weight, Tim. He didn't even really want to fight. However, he did what he had to do. He got down to 43 pounds. He got on the scale. He gave up the money. He gave up the money like he said he was. And he got in there and he fought. And he kicked his ass, Tim. And at the end of the day, I understand the PEDs or whatever, but I'm telling you right now, the stuff that he took, there was some funny business, Tim. I'm telling you. So, I believe my source. I truly believe my source. However, at the end of the day, I think Haney is just making this shit look even worse.
You think about the conversation that we just had in reference to Conor Benn's doping fiasco and Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney's doping fiasco.
We've talked to death.
The British Boxing Board of Control has spent the better portion of the last 2 years trying to crucify Conor Benn, trying to nail him to the wall. Adjudication for Ryan Garcia was a lot more Johnny on the spot, a lot more quick, and a lot more lenient. You see, in the United Kingdom, if you test positive for a banned substance, you could get hit with anywhere in between a 2 to a 4-year ban. Whereas here in America, you really only get hit with a few months, normally about 6.
Ryan got 10, backdated from 12.
And they call that a year retroactively, when it isn't.
They're a lot more lenient in America, and attitudes towards doping in the sport, in a very general sense, are a lot more lenient in America. The sentences are not as harsh.
So when Ariel Helwani asks, is Conor Benn being held to a different standard? He is, in a manner of speaking, a different standard than American fighters are held to, or fighters based out of America. Conor is being held to a different standard, but is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Do you feel that the BBBofC should go easier on him?
The way so many American commissions go easy on fighters that test positive for banned substances, or is it refreshing? Is it a good thing that they don't have a revolving door policy when it comes to doping in the sport, and that if you get caught, you're gonna pay?
What is best?
You often hear me say that the sport of boxing doesn't know how it wants to feel about doping. Do you want a cleaner sport or not?
People pick and choose when they want to let this stuff be outrageous, outrage them.
Not just the fans, but the fighters and the people within boxing themselves. They pick and choose their selective outrage to the point to where you don't know how you should feel about it.
How many times have you seen Gervonta Davis go up to bat for Ryan Garcia since all of this started, when he was the first to accuse Ryan of doping? Before he got caught?
Before those two fought, in Gervonta Davis's opinion, the reason Ryan didn't take a stay busy fight en route to their fight is because he was cycling off of PEDs, he was doping. That's what he said before he fought him, so that after he fights him and after he beats him and after he fails a VADA test, now he's innocent? What are you supposed to say when even the people within boxing, those most affected by doping or potential doping in the sport, are so wishy-washy with what's supposed to be a serious issue, a life-threatening issue?
See what Timothy Bradley said. Inside sources have relayed to him that there must have been some kind of funny business going on involving Ryan, his doping case,
and he trusts his sources. But who are his sources? What connection do they have to Ryan? What makes them reliable? When so many elements of the situation are up in the air, it's open to interpretation. And outside looking in, it just looks like a conspiracy theory geared towards making Ryan look innocent.
That's all I see.
Timothy Bradley said that in the build-up of the fight, Ryan didn't even train. He didn't even bother. So why was he going through with it? Could it be because he knew he was on something? He knew he was taking a ped, so he wasn't worried about it? Just the other day, Ryan said he was in training for a Devin Haney rematch. And Bill Haney responded by saying he would like for him to sign up to VADA testing in 48 hours, to which Ryan declined.
Why?
You just said you were training to fight that guy again. Why would you skip out on the anti-doping testing?
And would the people that are going up to bat for Ryan, endorsing all these conspiracy theories, keep that same energy if it were Devin that tested positive for Osterin? If it were Devin that had a banned substance in his system?
If it were Devin that had won the fight, and that came out immediately afterwards, just like it did for Ryan, do you think these people defending Ryan would be defending Devin? Do you think they'd be dying on a hill for him?
You know the answer.
The people in boxing, at the ground level, the fans, and the people within it, on the industry side of it, are too wishy-washy.
What I think?
Boxing is a dirty business. It always has been, in one way, shape, or form or another. And outside looking in, I don't think boxing wants to be a cleaner sport. For all the effort and all the money that gets spent on anti-doping testing, underneath it all, they don't really want a cleaner sport.
Then why spend money on the testing?
Optics, you have to look like you're at least trying to make things better, look like you're trying to make things safer.
Liability?
Covering your own ass. You tried to make this as safe an environment and as even a playing field as you could by employing anti-doping testing.
That's as it pertains to the promoters.
As it pertains to the fighters, and why fighters might employ anti-doping testing in a sport that is rank with doping, it's likely to gain an edge over their opponents.
It's not to clean up the sport.
What if it's to handicap your opponent? You're doping, and so are they, but if you employ anti-doping testing, they don't get to use their gear while you use yours.
What if?
I don't get the sense that boxing wants to be a cleaner sport.
That's how it looks.